Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here, and I am back again with a brand new video. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do so. Check out previous tech videos, and if you have any questions or you wanna just check me out on Twitter, go ahead and follow me. I'll leave my username here, and I'll leave a link in the description. Follow me there, and we can have a discussion over there. Okay. So in today's video, we're going to be actually comparing the Moto E4 versus the Moto E4 Plus. So right off the bat, let's start with the price. So the Moto E4 is priced at $50, whereas the Moto E4 Plus is priced at $100. So what do you get with that extra $50? Okay, so I already reviewed the Moto E4. If you want to check it out, it's linked below. But let's talk about, first of all, the design. So let's talk about the Moto E4. So the Moto E4 is a 5-inch HD 720p panel, and the design of it looks decent, typical Motorola style. Now it does not have the connectors in the back, so you can have like the modularity of the Moto Z or the Moto Z4s. But it does kind of resemble those phones, and I guess that's just Motorola's signature design now, and it looks cool. And you still have that dimple on the back, and you have your 8 megapixel camera with your LED flash. It does protrude a tiny bit, not really a lot. And on the right hand side, you do have your mushy and not really tactile power button and volume up and down. You do get textures, so you can tell which one is which. But again, they are kind of mushy. On the front, you do get your 5 megapixel front-facing camera with your LED flash. Not sure how many people use LED flash on the front, but it's there if you need it. So that's pretty cool of them to add. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the design of the Moto E4. Now, the Moto E4 Plus actually adds on to that. So again, typical Motorola fashion. It's kind of similar, except it's not really made out of metal, but it kind of resembles it. And there's no dimple. This is just a matte finish. They just slapped the Motorola logo on here, and the camera sits perfectly flush, and it's a 13 megapixel sensor with a LED flash. And you kind of do get this kind of outline on top and bottom, so it looks pretty good. So on the right hand side, you do get your power button and your volume up and down. The buttons on this one are really tactile and they're really good, so I really like them, so that's a plus. And in terms of grip, they're both actually kind of slippery, but you do get your 8 megapixel sensor with the LED front facing flash. Again, not sure how many people use that, but it's there if you need it. And on the bottom, you do get your fingerprint sensor. Now this is a fingerprint sensor only, so it's not really a capacitive button. So it's not really a capacitive home button or anything like that. And as you guys can see, there's an update available, but we'll do that later. So yeah, and okay, so on the top you do also get your speakers. So front-facing speakers, not really stereo, but they're front-facing. So that's a plus in my book. Okay, so that's that for design. So let's talk about the resolution and the display. So the Moto E4 was rocking a 5-inch HD display, whereas the Moto E4 Plus is rocking a 5.5-inch standard 720p display. So both resolutions, I think the 5-inch 720p display looks a tiny bit better, just because it's harder to peep the pixels, since the phone is only 5 inches versus the 5.5 inches. I think a 1080p display on this phone would have topped it. It would have probably been one of the best $100 phones out there, period. Now, in terms of battery size, so the Moto E4 has a 2800 milliamp hour battery, whereas shockingly, actually, in my opinion, is the most impressive feature of this phone, the Moto E4 Plus has a huge 5000 milliamp hour battery. I'm gonna say that again. It has a large 5000 milliamp hour battery, and battery life on this phone is outstanding. One of the best, budget phone or not, it's up there. It's really good. It's not really thicker than the standard Moto E4. They're kind of actually the same thickness, coming from just looking at them. But I guess if you measure them, if you really want to be precise, you would see a little bit of a difference. But to the naked eye, I mean, not really that much difference. So yeah. We talked about design, we talked about display, we talked about the great battery life of this phone, of the Moto E4 Plus. So performance, and they both kind of perform similarly. I would say that the Moto E4 Plus kind of outdoes the Moto E4 by a little bit. If we do a quick speed test, so this is just day-to-day tasks like the phone app 321. Well, I take that back. The Moto E4 wins. So the messaging app 321. So the Moto E4 wins. And like I said, I mean, okay. So performance-wise, in terms of day-to-day tasks, they're kind of similar. There isn't one that is better than the other. They're pretty similar in terms of day-to-day tasks. But for gaming, the Moto E4 Plus is actually better. The processing power on it is a little bit better. They both have quad-core processors, but I think it's just for gaming, the Moto E4 Plus would last you longer and would perform a little bit smoother than the standard Moto E4. So yeah, it's not really that big of a difference in terms of performance, but it's there. So what are the differences between these two phones? Well, number one is that fingerprint sensor right there, and it's fast and it's reliable. Take my word for it. So the fingerprint sensor is fast and reliable. It's really it's good. So, and it's there. While the Moto E4 actually does not have that. And the other big thing that differentiates these two is the battery, and I talked about it for a little bit, but yeah, the battery makes a huge difference. If you're a heavy user of your phone, then the Moto E4 Plus, I would just go ahead and pay the extra $50 because it makes sense to have this 5,000 milliamp hour battery in your hand. Now, they're both actually kind of slippery, so I would slap a case on them. And they both have this always on display, so that's pretty cool. Now the camera. So I reviewed this phone, and the camera on here is okay. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It doesn't really compete with other budget phones or flagships. Of course, it doesn't compete with flagships, but in terms of other budget phones, it doesn't really compete. But the camera on this phone right here is actually not too shabby. It's pretty decent for a budget smartphone. So the pictures that come out of this camera are sharp. They have pretty good detail, decent bokeh, and they're clean for the most part. Now it does have some problems with color accuracy from time to time, but so color accuracy and dynamic range, I would say, is probably the weakest link of this camera. But overall, actually, I mean, it's a pretty decent camera. It's a pretty decent 13 megapixel. It's a pretty decent 13 megapixel sensor, and the selfie camera is actually not too shabby. It is a little bit soft. As if there was a little bit more detail on the front-facing camera, it would have been a little bit better. But yeah, that's really that for the camera. Now let's test the front-facing speakers, and actually the speakers are the best feature of this phone. And in my opinion, the second best feature right after the battery for the Moto E4 Plus. So let's start with the Moto E4, 3, 2, 1. So you can kind of block it, but I mean, it's front-facing speaker, unless you want to block it on purpose. It's a pretty good front-facing speaker. If it was stereo, actually this would have been outstanding, out of this world. It would probably beat a lot of flagships, but yeah. So let's take a look at the Moto E4 Plus. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So both of them have a pretty equal sounding speakers. So yeah, I mean, let me wrap it up with a conclusion, and I'll tell you, and I'll let you know which phone you should choose. So in my opinion, I would go the extra mile, pay the extra $50 and go with the Moto E4 Plus. The reason I say that is you get a bigger battery, and you get a fingerprint sensor, and you get a better camera. Now, if you're just looking at it at pure performance, then they are pretty similar. They're both actually splash-proof. Now, splash-proof is different from water-resistant, and that's different from waterproof. So if rain comes on them, then it's not really gonna damage the phones. You should be fine, but don't take them out swimming or anything like that. So yeah, really, there's not really a lot of differences in performance. They're pretty similar. The Moto E4 Plus might be a better experience because it's just a larger phone, but some people might prefer the smaller Moto E4. Design is always personal preference. In my opinion, they both look really similar. Again, I would prefer the Moto E4 Plus just because of the fingerprint sensor, the bigger battery. Specs, they're kind of identical. The Moto E4 Plus might perform a little bit better sometimes. The Moto E4 might perform a little bit better sometimes. But to me, the larger display just makes more sense to use. And the camera is actually much better on the Moto E4 Plus. So yeah, which one would I choose? I would definitely go for the Moto E4 Plus. But if you just want a smaller phone and cut that price in half, then I would go for the Moto E4. And yeah, let me end it here. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.